I mean, I think it's pretty clear that voters in states with an attorney general who signed on to this letter should be looking up for when they're up for reelection stat, because this is a direct threat to our medical freedom.
Maybe you missed it because it seems, well, most of us did. Mostly because it seems all of those involved were quite content with just letting it fly under the radar. That is until last week, when Mississippi Today, a nonprofit news organization, reported on a letter sent by that state's attorney general to the Department of Health and Human Services. The headline, as you can see there, the AG wants to make info on out-of-state abortions available to Mississippi authorities. And then stories like this and like that one started popping up over the weekend from places like, like Tennessee, from Kentucky, from Georgia, from Arkansas. And then last night we were informed of it by a text message. Yesterday evening, Vicki and Kuna sent us this. Just learned on MSNBC tonight that the Republican AGs, including Idaho, are demanding personal medical records on anyone they care to investigate, like those seeking abortion or trans care. Please investigate and bring your viewers up to speed. It was followed by this viewer voicemail this morning.
Hi, I am a longtime resident of Idaho and recently came across a Rachel Maddow segment that she is quoting from the Louisville Courier-Journal about our state AG Raúl Labrador signing on to a letter that is sent to the Biden administration demanding his office's right to the private health care records of Idahoans who received out-of-state services. I believe it's to further prosecute, and people receiving reproductive health care that's not allowed in this state or gender-affirming care. And I just think it's a shocking attack on our civil rights.
Of course, that got our attention, but this is what those two were talking about.
19 Republican attorney generals in 19 states have signed on to a letter to the Biden administration saying they want the right to go after women's private medical records anywhere in the country.
Okay, so we wanted to find out more about this letter. So let's start at the beginning. Back on April 17th, the Office for Civil Rights within the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, they proposed a rule change to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountancy Act. That's what we all know as HIPAA, privacy rules, right? Well, they wanted to modify the existing rules, which allows law enforcement to obtain medical records in the investigation of a crime or to protect public health. After the Dobbs decision, which gave states the authority to make their own rules when it comes to abortion, they wanted those reproductive health care records to be exempt from being obtained by law enforcement agencies. For example, in a state where abortion is illegal, like in Idaho, they don't want prosecutors to be able to use those medical records to charge anyone with a crime. They wanted to strengthen HIPAA privacy rules. This proposed rule would be open to public comment until June 16th, about a month ago. When that window closed on June 16th, that very same day, well, we got this letter from Mississippi's Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, sent a letter to the Secretary of Health and Human Services saying the proposed rule defies the governing statute, would unlawfully interfere with states' authority to enforce their laws, and does not serve any legitimate need. The proposed rule is a solution in search of a problem, and it was signed by 18 other attorneys general, including, yes, right there on page 16, Idaho's AG Raúl Labrador. The letter again was sent on June 16th, and since that day, Idaho's Attorney General's office has sent out email after email, media release after media release about everything from celebrating an opioid settlement, about him joining 26 other states and pushing back against the Office of Management and Budget, about joining 20 other states and pushing back against EPA rules, about joining 16 other states and challenging President Biden's proposal to expand Obamacare to undocumented immigrants. Mr. Labrador does a lot of joining other states in letters and lawsuits, and also he does a lot of letting us in the media know about it. Except for this one. This one went without an email or a post to his website. So we wanted to learn more about this proposed rule change, what it meant for Idahoans, and why Idaho's Attorney General wants it to go away. And to get an idea of what's at stake here, we spoke with a healthcare attorney who specializes in HIPAA rules. And our first question to him, what would this proposed rule do?
Under the current HIPAA, it allows law enforcement to obtain protected health information about an individual, as long as they jump through certain hoops, right?
But it's not as simple as a prosecutor saying, I need information on Jane Doe at this clinic in Oregon.
Correct. The HIPAA would prohibit responding to those types of requests. They have to have something in addition to that. Generally, they have to have some law or subpoena or a warrant that would require the healthcare provider to turn that information over to them. Under the proposed rule, it would say in the case of reproductive health, that law enforcement cannot obtain that information, that you as a covered entity, a healthcare provider, business associate at a healthcare provider, you could not disclose that information even if the law enforcement came to you with a warrant or a subpoena.
Mr. Stanger says the proposed rule, which at this point is just a proposed rule and it is not enforceable, well, it would only come into play in 3 situations. 1, if law enforcement wants information about an abortion performed in a state where it is legal. 2, if there's an exception to the law as it applies to EMTALA, where an abortion was performed because of an emergency medical condition. Or 3, where it was necessary to save the life of a mother. How it would apply to, say, I don't know, Idaho's abortion trafficking ban, where it's a crime for an adult to take a girl out of state for an abortion, even Stanger says he can't imagine how this proposed rule would apply to that scenario. He also pointed out it was Congress who established these HIPAA rules in the first place, not federal agencies. So for HHS to try to make rule changes, well, even as an attorney focused on healthcare privacy, he can see why the letter was written.
It is perhaps problematic. It does seem to go beyond what the statutes seem to contemplate. The concern would be that it interferes with their right as an attorney general to enforce the laws of a particular state. And those are concerns that hopefully HHS will vet and consider before it issues a final rule.
Yeah, or like everything else, there'll be a day in court, I guess.
There will be a day in court. Yeah, lots of days in courts over the abortion issues.
Well, one of those already taking Idaho's abortion laws to court is Planned Parenthood. And I don't have to tell you which side of the fence they stand on when it comes to Idaho's abortion bans, this proposed rule, and this letter. But we'll let them tell you.
We're seeing how the Attorney General's extreme anti-abortion agenda is playing out. He's actually opposing a rule that is as basic as it gets when it comes to patient privacy and safety. And the bottom line is he's making it clear that he wants to try to get people's personal private medical information. He's already stated that he wants to try and prevent people from leaving the state to be able to access healthcare. And by signing this letter, we see that it's clear that he wants to do it through medical records.
Misty, why do you think we're only just hearing about it now? I mean, this letter was signed and sent to HHS a month ago.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. We would also like to know why we're only hearing about this now. Oftentimes when the AG has signed on to other letters, there's been press releases, and the fact that we're only now hearing about it does seem a little bit shady and definitely not transparent at all.
Misty says, should this proposed rule not become a final rule, she's worried about the chilling effect it will have with a patient being honest with their doctor, worried that telling them about a procedure they had in another state that is illegal here in Idaho, well, that it's going to be given to and used against them by their own government. Of course, we did reach out to Attorney General Raúl Labrador several times, both last night and today, to ask him about this clandestine letter. So far, I don't hear anything either. But we did get this email today, this afternoon, saying he's led 8 other states against the Bureau of Land Management opposing the proposed Conservation and Landscape Health Rule. We did get that. The invitation to speak with us and answer questions is still open.